Can you hear? Yeah, better? Is that good? All my life, I tried to connect with other human beings, you know. I think that's something that made me continue with music. I think it's probably something that's true about not only musicians, but most artists, that we probably find a way to connect better with our art than just words.
What is the problem with words?
There is a limit to expression with just words. I'm very fascinated, actually, in addition to music. I have actually the book right here above that it says Lost in Translation, that it's, about how every culture has, some words that are untranslatable in other languages. And it says a lot about the culture, right? Like, they have that words because they've been experiencing that specific, whatever it is, emotion or state of mind or whatever that is, so much that they had to invent a word for that. But in other cultures, you don't have it. So, there are a lot of emotions when you listen to music that you really can't put in words. Like, just call it happy, sad, or, melancholy, or any word you're going to use. It's kind of diminishing the effect of the experience, I think. So probably the way I want to connect with other people is through music, because I don't think I'm like the best, as you can see right now. I'm not the best like person to describe himself with words, but music is definitely a way for me to do it, full on, put everything I have through the notes.
How did you come to music?
I started playing cello when I was probably 7 or 8. I started playing cello, and I played classical until I was probably like 18, something between 18 to 20. I forgot exactly when did I stop. But I did it professionally, professionally. I was a kid, but I was, playing with an orchestra here and there, or like chamber music, and then I started composing. I was always composing, but so it was always there. I was always writing, just, free form, just whatever was in my head back then. There was no definition for what I was doing. I was just writing. And then later on, I don't remember exactly if I was like 16 or so, 17, I started playing electric bass.
Do you take more risks as a composer or as a musician playing a music written by someone else on stage?
It's a good question. I think most definitely you take more risks as a composer. And the big difference between being a composer and being a performer, of course there's a level of composition when you improvise, right? Like in jazz, that is one of the reasons that I wanted to play jazz. There is always that risk of that moment of what's going to happen, and it's a mix of like composing by yourself and also reacting to other musicians, right? And some nights it's going to be great, some nights it's going to be horrible, But the difference is, for me, the reason I'm saying composing in a way, there is a bigger risk, because you really don't have where to hide. When you perform other people's music, you can always blame everything. You can blame their writing. You can say, yeah, their writing is not that good, and it really, it's really hard to make something out of it, or say like, that night I didn't feel really well, the sound was terrible, the other musicians were not really...
The audience?
The audience was not really vibing with me, You can find a million reasons to, And it's all excuses, by the way. There is no excuse. Like, it's all up to you. But you can find reasons to justify it in your mind, that it's not your fault. But when you write music, you can't, it feels like you're a little bit like naked, almost like you just put it yourself out there and saying like, look, this is who I am. And you have as much time as required technically, right, to write music. Unless it's a commission that someone asks you and gives you a deadline. And even in that case, they give you enough time to really like sort things out and spend the time. And composing is like digging, for like diamond or something, and you just brush off all the dirt until you find that perfect stone that you were looking for.
Is it about ego? Is it about music? Is it about judgment? What kind of risks is that?
Ego, for sure. Ego, it's the number one. issue with not every, obviously every person, but definitely every artist, dealing with ego. It's the reason that some artists are uplifted or are crashing at the end, dealing with your ego, and accepting your ego, or whatever you want to call it, but not accepting your ego, but accepting who you are, is a big part of a process of an artist, and it's a long process. I guess it's mostly ego, because the fear, and the fear of what people would think. There is also this thing in jazz, I think, that it's there's still very competitive in some ways, but also it puts a lot of emphasis on your own voice in jazz. Like it's very important that you don't sound like someone else. Like they always talk about that. Like you need to learn the history. You need to learn other people's voices, but you need to find your voice at the end. And for me, it took a long time, and I realized that the way to get to my voice is actually through writing, not only through practicing and playing standards or other people's music. But I think the past year I was able to filter both emotions and just realize that I need to just do it because time is running out. And also it's a very morbid thought, but like I was thinking, if I die today, like what will be left? And there are other things that I've done with other musicians, that's great, but like I realized that if I die and people will listen to stuff I've done with other people, they would not really know who I was, and I realized that I need to put that music out there so people would know who I am at the end. That was important for me, and that really helped me release the fear from the ego and fear from what people would think, because I thought, okay, this is just something for me. This is my wheel, in a way. Hopefully I'll have many, many more years of creating more music, obviously, so I know it's very morbid, but it kind of released that pressure for me from what people think, because it doesn't matter at the end if, we're all going to die eventually, and it doesn't matter, so just put whatever you can put out there that is who you are, and try to be as honest as you can, and the rest would just follow.
Personally, did you learn until now something essential about yourself while composing?
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. I definitely dealt with some fears that I had. I called my record "Roads Diverge." That was the title, which was based on Robert Frost's very famous poem of the road not taken. You basically find yourself in a crossroad between two roads, and he said that at the end he chose the road less traveled by, and that made all the difference. And through that, I realized that I had fear for a long time of choosing paths, and I was always in crossroads. I mean, you're always in crossroads at any point, right? You wake up in the morning, you're in a crossroad if I'm going to eat now or go practice, you're at every moment there is decisions to make. And for a very long time, and I still do it once in a while, but I'm fighting it, is that I would basically freeze. I would have situations that I need to choose from, and I would think that the safest thing is just to stay where I'm comfortable at all the time. And what I realize, and this poem is talking about, that by making a choice, whether it's the right choice or the wrong choice, by the fact that you just make a choice, you make some progress. So you're already in a different place, which is already better than just staying in the same place and freezing. The decision to make a record was already like a choice that I moved forward to. The fact that I was willing to take that chance, and that risk made a big difference. And with my music as well, like, the more I write, I take more risks, try to find different, I try to always write something that I haven't done before in some way, and take that risk. It might be terrible, but at least I tried something new. So that's always the constant struggle, I think, that I go through. And I'm assuming every artist going through is like trying to move forward and trying to take the less traveled road all the time.
When you sit at your desk to compose your music, tell me, how does it start?
Every time there's something else that kind of turns me on, on a musical piece. It could be a specific groove or rhythm. It could be harmony. It could be melody.
In your mind?
In my mind, yeah. And then I usually write on the piano. I rarely write on the bass, actually. So I come from harmony for sure. I like to sit in front of my hands, on the piano. And I dig in. I dig into these days as I write more. I really try to go back to what that thing that really inspired me, that first spark. Because a lot of times you start from that and then you go so far that you lose that magic that you had at the beginning. But a lot of times for me also the inspiration comes from, I had a few songs actually on my album that came from inspiration from someone else's piece, and I would really dig into that. For example, I had a song on my record that is the title track called Roads Diverge. And I remember there was this one piece by one of my favorite composers and musicians, Wayne Shorter. He wrote this beautiful piece called On a Shadow, something Hill, I forgot. Shadow Hill, something like that, I forgot. But there was something in it, in the composition, that just every time I heard it, just drove me insane. It was so inspiring, and it was exactly the vibe. I wanted something, it wasn't even the something in the technical part of it. It was just something in the vibe of the piece that was so, it just drove me towards it. Every time I would hear it, it would move me. And then I played it a few times. I transcribed it, played it a few times, tried to understand what in it that makes me move. And I realized something with the bass, for example, like the left hand, the bass, something with the pattern, something with the harmony and the intervals and stuff like that. And I started writing something in that type of vibe. And the more I got into it, it got away from his. Like at the beginning, it sounds something very similar to what he did. But I trust myself enough to keep on going, keep on going, keep on going, to the point that it feels inspired, but it's not copying that, it doesn't sound like it's just another song. And I asked my musicians at one point, like, what does it sound like to you? And it was funny to hear their answers. They said a bunch of other stuff that it was not even inspiring for me. Well, inspiring, but not the thing that inspired my that specific composition. So I think it's a great process as well for me to take something that is already taken, something that a master did before you, and try to write something in that type of vibe, and start breaking it in a way. And I think a lot of actually artists, painters and sculptors, I think, did that as well. Like, take a whatever, Da Vinci, Monet or something, and copy it, and then start to break it in your own way.
Composing is making a variation about an inspiring piece of music for you.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think there is something that you hear in someone's composition that maybe resonates some sort of, like we talked before, it's something you can't explain in words, but something that resonates in your personality that just is dying to break out. And in that case, that I heard that piece of Wayne Shorter, there was something in me that really resonated with that. So it means that specific emotion could be explored and could be executed by me in a different way. Maybe you can't really create something that never been done before. Trying to do that
from scratch,
like there is no such thing. And the beauty of it is the lineage of the history and tradition that you came from, and try to do something. That's why saying something new, it's kind of doesn't really make sense to me. That's why I'm not really afraid of taking something that already has been done and try to find my own voice through it. It's just a vessel. It's very hard not to be, what's the word for that? Not to be, not sarcastic about it, but like, really be open-minded, critical. Yeah, just really not think too much and just let yourself go. Just write, and it's not easy, because also the more because jazz musicians are relying on so much knowledge, right, of harmony, rhythm, melody, and you spend so much time analyzing other people's music or improvisations that sometimes it's hard to just be in the moment when you write and not think too much about, this is I know that this chord could go to this chord, which is going to be very smart or like very cool to do, but is not really what sometimes your ears or your emotion is telling you to go. And that's my problem with a lot of, actually, especially in jazz these days, a lot of the compositions that I hear today, unfortunately, I think rely on those decisions, of like, this is what really turns me on right now, this is what really emotionally moves me, this is, thinking like, this is what would be very impressive right now, or that would be really, a cool idea. Or every time I get to that moment, and I get to that moment because this is the music I play, and there is a lot of sophistication in it, obviously. But every time it's getting like very cerebral at some point, I'm trying to get away and stop myself and just say like, okay, if you would listen to this music right now, would you actually listen to it or switch to the other track? Just be very honest. And when I did this record, I really, really, really try to get to the point that if this is a record that I would sit at home and listen to it honestly, And I think I did it. I think I was able to, filter those thoughts as much as I could. What I'm trying to say, it's fine with me as long as it's completely honest.
How can you be sure that you're honest about your music?
That's a great question. I mean, that's the whole struggle, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, this is something that probably that's why it took me so long to release my record, to find out, I could spend literally 2-3 months on one note if I need to, like figure out, move it, and so many places, and change meters and change harmony and change melody or orchestration until I find that thing that really, really I feel like it's what I felt at the beginning about it. That's what portrayed it the best. So I think that struggle is my struggle for honesty.
Do you like silence?
I love it. And I would say that my goal for my next record is to find more moments like that. Because where there is silence, there is a moment to reflect and then figure out what to do next. And I'm working more and more as I mature to give more silence in my playing and in my writing.
Is there a specific New York spirit for you?
New York spirit. Yeah, I'm sure there is. It could be at the same time uplifting and also very depressing at the same time, right? It's a crazy, crazy place, and it gets into your music. And if I think that I have something to say, which I do, then why not? And New York is a beautiful place to do it, because the thing that I like the most about New York is there is a space for everyone.
I'm gonna leave the room, keep the microphone, and please add whatever you want to the interview.
Wow. Where are you gonna go? I would like to be interviewed maybe about why I came to New York. I think the main reason I came to New York was because New York is the place to be for jazz. All my idols were at one point living here. And I realized if I want to explore it the best I can, I should move here. I think also in Israel, my father is a very known figure, especially in the classical and jazz world. And I think I wanted to be able to create my own name without people knowing that Wiesenberg is the son of this guy. So they would expect already something from me. And I wanted to live in a place that people have no expectations from me. And, judge me for who I am. So that's the main reason I moved here. And yeah, I think that's the only question I can think of